Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. When Fate Sparks Vengeance. Episode 1. I, Kieran Blackwood, the future alpha of the Red Moon Pack, hereby reject you, Lila Crestwood, as my mate and Luna of my pack. Do you consent to this with a clear mind and body? A grin appeared on her face as she replied, of course. I consent. Lila had one objective throughout her entire life, and that was to seek vengeance against her father's killer Kieran Blackwood, but what occurs when he is revealed to be her mate? How will she exact retribution for all his wrongdoings? Will he gain her pardon? What happens when Jaden's brother starts to reveal emotions and feelings Lila never realized she had? Will Kieran Blackwood regret his decisions? Chapter 1. The Last Person. Lila Crestwood, who's that slave? One guard asked his companion as he gawked at me with keen interest. Hey! His partner asked absent-mindedly. The slave with red hair. Who is she? He asked again, gesturing toward me as I scrubbed a stubborn stain off the floor. The guard gave me one look, then slapped his companion over the head. Women with big asterisk would be the end of you, Kravinsky. They both laughed, shoving each other for a while. I barely noticed them since I was too busy fighting with the stains on the floor. Cleaning the dungeons was the most terrible assignment I had ever done in my life. Whatever it was that had gotten stuck on the floor might just be pieces of a human brain. Watch this. The second guard poked his friend and then winked at him as he moved toward me slowly. I was too focused on the stain to notice the guard until he groped me from behind. His hands crept up on my thighs, moving low. I jerked up fast, knocking him flat on his ass. I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. I apologized in an honestly sympathetic tone. He stared at me wide-eyed and surprised that he had been knocked down by a woman. His pal made things worse by laughing and snorting at him. Mister, I'm sorry, I tried explaining myself, but the rage on his face made it evident that he wasn't going to listen to my explanations. He got up and marched angrily to me. I saw the punch before it hit my gut. I could have dodged it easily, but I knew that would only agitate him more and most likely put me in a bigger mess than the one I had just unknowingly got myself in. His partner yelled at him to cut it off, but he ignored it just like I knew he would. Kravinsky. That's enough. But Kravinsky didn't stop there. He gave me 2 more punches to my rib and then hit me hard across my face, a move which sent me flying across the room till I slammed into a far wall. Fresh blood trickled down my nose and I could feel he had busted one of my ribs when he hit me. The pain that washed through my entire body was unbearable, but I bit my lower lips and let it run its course. Just let it go, Lila. It will heal fast. You know I got you, kiddo. My wolf spoke to me through my mind, which was our only channel of communication. I could tell she was feeling my pain maybe even more than I was. I knew taking both of them out in a split second would be like squatting a fly for me, but I had to be rational if I was to survive in this world. The guard walked up to where I lay in a crumpled heap on the floor and he spat on me, making sure he gathered the thickest and most vile smelly spittle before discarding it with impressive accuracy on my hair. After that, he gave me 2 more kicks across my good rib before moving away to meet his buddy, who watched the whole show in amusement. Serves right. He bawled, flexing his wrist. My hands turned to fists. At that moment I felt like rushing him and ripping his throat out just before I snap his friend's neck, kicking his head off. Don't! My wolf implored, calming me down. The fists flattened to become palms once again. His buddy chuckled. They had had their little entertainment and enjoyed it, even if it meant harming a helpless woman. That was the way of the world. Get you up before I come to kick you some more. He yelled at me. You ain't done cleaning yet. What if you've killed her? His buddy asked. Stop clowning, Tim. I didn't hit her that hard, did I? For a moment I contemplated laying there. Maybe I'd just play dead for a while just to f***k with them. But I knew it was just going to get me in trouble, so I struggled up to my feet and wobbled to where I had been cleaning. I grabbed the brush and resumed the scrubbing. The pains in my side made me wince, but I continued regardless. There was no way I was going to give the pleasure of watching me reel over in pain. I got to admit, she's got a body on her. I ignored their obscene comments, pretending to be too invested in my work to hear them. They were staring at me while talking about all the things they would love to do to it. I completed my job and left the dungeon so they could lock it. I made sure to hurry back to the equipment room and dropped the instruments I had just used, then I rushed back on the path to my room. I needed to take care of my bruised body while it was healing and wipe away the dried blood from my face. My current look will most likely break a mirror into several fragments. I was just about to round the corner leading to the corridor that would take me to my room when someone accidentally bumped into me. The pain in my side ached from the impact of running into another person. I cursed, unable to draw in oxygen without feeling a sharp pain. Erg. I winced, cursing as I leaned on the wall. Watch it. I looked up to see who had been clumsy enough to almost knock me out and gasped when I saw it was Kieran. The last person on earth I wanted to bump into me. He was the last person on earth I wanted to come across honestly. Yet there he was, watching me with a devilishly handsome smirk on his perfect face. Kieran Blackwood, the son of the Alpha who happens to be my mate. Chapter 2 Sound. Kieran Blackwood, the sound of steel hitting steel, was dominant in the arena amongst grunts, agonizing screams, and other minor sounds. The mixture of blood, sweat, and dust brought an aura of power that sizzled with intensity. Watch out, Kieran! My trainer screamed just in time. I sidestepped just on time before the blade had the opportunity to take off my arm. It had been very close. It was dangerous to get distracted on the grounds of the arena, and I had let myself get distracted. Keep your mind sharp. I was trying hard to do just that, but the familiar scent of jasmine kept evading my senses. It was a scent accustomed to my mate. I cursed as I tried to dodge a fierce combo attack from Dimitri. He was in a deadly form this morning, and I knew it would be tricky to defeat him, unlike our previous duels. You're in a different league today, Dimitri, I said, panting hard. He could tell I was distracted, and what he was doing was playing that to his advantage. Who would blame him for being a smart, conniving bastard? You seem a little off today, he commented as he rushed at me once more. I was extremely off. Saying I was a little off was just his way of messing with me. I blocked most of his attack and managed to kick him. The impact of the kick sent him back, creating a safe distance between us. The scent returned, and for a moment I just stood motionless as it warped through me. Watch out, you fool! My wolf screamed at me, bringing me out of my trance state in time to dodge the strike and counter with a quick jab. Dimitri lost his footing, and I rushed him with a series of quick punches, landing every single one. He slumped to the floor, unable to continue. Mind telling us what that just now was all about? Feral, my trainer asked. Feral was a legendary warrior well known for his combat skills and unmatched battle experience. He fought beside my father while they were still lads. My father had gotten him to train me in the meantime, and he was doing a good job so far. Dimitri was still on the floor, too exhausted to get up. He stayed there breathing heavily. I asked you a question, Jay. He bawled through gritted teeth. Most people preferred to call me Jay rather than Kieran. I took the band off my hair, letting the golden strands fall freely, then I gathered them up neatly together and held them together with the band in a bun. I'm just a little off today. Nothing more, I said, avoiding his scrutinizing gaze. If that's all, "I'll be on my way to the showers," I said. I cursed as I left the arena. There was dust everywhere, and by the time I made it to the passage, I was as white as a snowman. The scent of jasmine had gone away completely after my spar with Dimitri, which made it feel like the devilish thing was trying to taunt me. I cursed as I remembered how I had found out my mate was a lowly slave girl who was probably wiping off somewhere in the palace. I had known from the first day I saw her, and I cursed my ill fate. It was proof that the moon goddess didn't like me at all, so I made it my life's mission to FK every girl I could lay my hands on in the pack and beyond. I was going to force the moon goddess to come down herself just to tell me how much of a bad boy I've been. How would she mate a slave with the future alpha of one of the greatest packs ever? It was a sick joke. I knew it wasn't a mistake or some kind of mix-up. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. That doesn't mean she can't try to be funny once in a while. Just as I rounded a corner, still cursing the moon goddess in my mind obviously, I accidentally bumped into a girl, sending her backward. Oh no! I noticed it was the slave girl that had been mated to me. The moon goddess really knew how with me. I wanted to walk away before she looked up and notices me, but I stayed and watched her with interest. She wasn't bad to look at. She was gorgeous with a body that could cause men to start wars, but then, she was just a slave. She looked up after being dazed for a while and focused on me. I saw the shock in her expression just before it was replaced by resentment, then she kept her expression blank. My body responded to her standing so close. It was the first time we were standing so close in years since the slave master of the palace bought her. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, bowing even though I had been the one that ran into her. She sounded like she meant it even though she spoke grudgingly. I knew she was older than 17, so she had to be aware we were mates. "Cut the act. I know you are aware we're mated," I said to her without holding back. She looked up at me, shocked at my tone, then nodded. "I hate that," I said. "I hate being mated to a thing like you." She smiled weakly as she said, "I understand, sir." I hated how she was agreeing to everything I said. I knew she was rebellious. She had a spirit of rebellion. I was connected to her in a way that was both unique and annoying, which made me know and understand her in a way that no one else could. So why was she being submissive? I turned to walk away. "Come with me," I said without looking back. Chapter 3 Reality. Lila Crestwood. "Come with me," he said, walking away. I hesitated for just a split second before strutting behind him. I was almost fully healed from the assault I had suffered early that morning from the guard. When I walked, I limped a little, but apart from that, there was no other sign that I had been beaten. Oh, the dried blood on my face. I almost forgot about that. He walked to his chambers smelling of sweat and pure primitive energy while I followed behind him in silence. The whole place was dark as there were heavy curtains that covered the large windows. The room was painted in electric grey, which gave the impression of a stormy night. There was a large bed with dark blue sheets which only added to the already fierce sea atmosphere of the place. Kieran walked up to the bed and sat by the side. He stared at me with contempt in his eyes. I knew he hated me just as much as I hated him. Why then had he ordered me to follow him? It was an order to me, if not I would have politely declined. I could easily tell him I had a toilet somewhere that needed my attention rather than me walking into his creepy room that resembled a vampire's nest. "Sir, what am I doing here?" I asked, taking another look at the room. He tapped the bed slightly, and that was when I noticed there was another figure lying on the bed. She stretched out and then sat up after hearing his signal, and I recognized her immediately as Kieran's girlfriend Riley. She was slender. I could only see her torso, but I knew instantly she wasn't putting on any clothes at all. "What is she doing here, Jay?" she asked viciously as her eyes flared up at me. Kieran grinned, which showed just how much he enjoyed making his lover jealous. She's here to observe. He said. He kept his gaze on me. I didn't falter or flinch as I held his gaze. Why? Riley asked, moving closer to him. She wrapped her arms around his neck, which I saw as a show of possession. Chill, girl. I'm not making moves on your man, for crying out loud, I screamed inside my head. I had no idea the reason he had called me into his room while he was there with another woman who just happens to be his lover, and to top it off. Why, Kieran? What is she doing here? She scowled. Just ignore her, he said without minding if I was there hearing the obscene things he had just said. Riley rolled off the bed, stretching her lithe form. She had a small, rounded butt that rolled when she walked. She moved to take off his clothes, which had sweat and droplets of blood on them. The sight of his bare chest made me gasp in a soundless gesture. I wasn't about to allow either of them know I was intrigued by what I saw. He watched me the whole time, and I struggled to keep my expression from showing him what I was thinking. Riley knelt in front of him. His face contorted in a grimace of pleasure as my chest tightened and became heavy. Oh, no. I knew what was happening. Anytime he was getting pleasured by any woman, I would feel a terrible pain in my chest that would only increase to the point it became unbearable. I was tempted to put my palms against my ears to blurt out the sounds of pleasure. My knees buckled from under me, and I had trouble staying on my feet. The pain in my chest was becoming unbearable. I bit my lower lips, hiding my fists just out of sight as I struggled to keep myself from falling. My wolf screamed and howled in my head, making sounds that threatened to drive me to the brink of insanity. She was feeling the pain I felt. We shared everything, even our emotions. Be strong, girl, we can make it out of this together, I whispered to her within my mind. The more I tried to hold myself together, the more I fell apart. Kieran watched me, seeing the change in my expression, and smirked when he realized I was in pain. It was his plan all along to hurt me in the worst possible way, and he was enjoying it. To avoid an incomplete reading experience. Riley stopped. I felt relief at that moment from the pain that threatened to bring about my end, and my breathing leveled. Are you fine? You look a little pale, Kieran said as he watched me with amusement. Riley stared at the both of us, still unsure as to what was happening between the both of us. It was obvious she had no idea her boyfriend was being the biggest B*D in the world. I'm fine, I managed to say in a voice devoid of life. I sounded like a wrath about to transcend reality. Oh really? Carry on, Riley, don't stop till I tell you to. Riley eyed Kieran suspiciously while he just chuckled and shrugged. She turned to give me a look. It was a warning to stay away from her man. Chapter 4 Weak. Kieran Blackwood. Riley lowered herself on me completely. I could see the discomfort on the girl's face. Her look was that of pain and not envy. She was experiencing some sort of physical discomfort, which only confirmed she was my mate. Mates felt a stabbing pain when their other halves were being physical with someone else. I smirked. She held me there for a while, putting her arms around my neck. I watched the girl. Perspiration had appeared on her face, and I couldn't tell if she was going to pass out any minute or if she was going to be fine. She was strong, I had to give her that. What's your name? I asked as she hesitated for a while. It must have been difficult trying to speak through the pain she was feeling. Hi, Lila. My name is Lila, she said. Lila. I mused over it. Not bad. You don't look so good, Lila. Do you want us to stop? I asked, mocking her. Riley slowed down when she heard what I had just said. I urged her to continue and she did after giving me a look. Lila stood there struggling to stand upright. She didn't say a word but I knew she wanted me to stop. I could feel it through the connection we had. Yet she just stood and watched with a tight grimace. Well, since she wants to be tough then let's teach her a little lesson, I thought to myself. I stood up from the bed exercising. I pulled her closer. She bounced back to every thrust I made. I turned to look at Lila. She was breathing fast and sweating profusely. She looked like she was going to pass out for sure. Lila was so pale I suspected she had made up her mind to die from the pain. If that was the case, then so be it. Lila Crestwood, I couldn't think straight anymore. The pain had managed to cripple me completely, shutting my senses. I felt bad for Helena, my wolf, yes she has a name, as I heard her tortured screams. Just stop them. Tell them to stop, Lila. She begged. I couldn't. I had no right stopping them. The sounds of Riley's moans were the only thing that filled my ears, mimicking the hot rush of blood through my entire system. The pain was boosted because of how close I was to them. The tears in my eyes blurred my vision and all I could make from their moving bodies was a wet blotch. I crumbled to the floor on one knee, struggling to stay up as long as my heart was still beating. Did you say anything? Kieran asked. His voice was barely audible from the ringing in my head. It sounded like he was shouting from the top of a mountain. I shook my head, barely moving. I knew he had a smirk on his face without even looking at him. He was that much of a bastard. I guessed Riley must have turned around at one point to check me in my pitiful condition, because I heard her at one point say, "What's wrong with her? She doesn't look so good." Kieran must have waved it away as nothing, which was what I expected. I mumbled something under the grip of pain. I was sure it was just meaningless ramblings because I had difficulty remembering what I had said. Helena begged me and I discovered just how weak she had gotten. She sounded like an empty shell and her voice was distant in my head as she tried to push me into making his stop. Riley screamed out in pleasure and I used her screams as a smokescreen to hide my shrieks of pain. They were too busy to notice me, but that was just wishful thinking as I remembered how Kieran had been watching me the whole time. My head hung low but I could tell his eyes were on me. He was probably watching me. My second knee touched the floor but my hand stopped me from slumping completely. Stop. Please just stop already, I said weakly. Chapter 5 Red Moon. Kieran Blackwood, stop. Please just stop already, she said, barely audible. Mostly all I heard was a mumbled sentence. Nothing more. Hey? Say something, I asked as we both paused for a minute. Stop, she muttered. It sounded like her mouth had gone dry and I stopped myself from thinking about what it would feel like to feel the pain even once. Since finding out she was my mate, I'd never felt the pain, not even once. That showed she had never been with another man, not even partially. That's enough, I told Riley as I urged her to get off me. She started at me in confusion. What is going on? She scowled. She sounded agitated. Her face was a dark mask with a heavy grimace that would scare most men, but sadly I wasn't most men. I found it amusing. The girl, Lila, struggled to her feet. She was regaining her color a little and her breathing had leveled. You wouldn't believe it if I told you, babe, I said, grinning. I rolled on the bed, moving to the dresser. I grabbed a kimono and wrapped it around my body, fastening the straps. Lila here happens to be my mate, I said to Riley. How's that for a mind? Riley gasped in shock. So just now yet, she was in excruciating pain. I could see I had upset Riley. She couldn't walk up to me and call me, which was a trait that made her less attractive to me. She was so scared of losing me that she could take just about any bullshit I threw her way. She sighed as she struggled into her clothes. Riley was going to leave just so she could cry into the arms of Shane, my older sister. Her routine was the most predictable thing in the world and it was starting to get irritating. "Are you okay?" I asked Lila. She nodded as she stood upright. Her legs were still unsteady and it was a wonder that she still had the strength to stand. Having her in the room with us while we had definitely increased the effect by 1,000. Riley got dressed and then walked up to the door. She stopped when she got to Lila's side. "Stay away from my man or I'd come for you with everything I have." Lila nodded and she left with that. "Women, right?" I commented with a sigh. She just stood quiet. "You're the daughter of Dean Thomas Stewart's, right?" I asked. "The Shadow of the East," I added mockingly. She watched me with rage burning with a dangerous intensity in her eyes, but she managed to confirm my suspicion with a nod. She had the same eyes as her father. He was the most legendary alpha at the time I was just a lad. They had given him the title Shadow of the East because of how he could destroy his enemies without them having the slightest clue. I used to idolize the man. Alpha of the Dark Moon Pack. That was till he was killed along with his household during the Great Purge. Ultimately, he had been a traitor just like the rest alphas who had been executed along with him. My father had been loyal to the crown. The daughter of a cowardly traitor. "And I'm meant to be your mate," I said, laughing out loud. "My father was no coward," she said agitatedly. I grinned. So she had the same rebellious spirit as her father. I thought she was going to take my insults with her head low. "That doesn't change the fact you're the spawn of a traitor," I said, mocking her. "A traitor according to the corrupt bias crown which you all serve." My smile slipped. She was even more rebellious than I thought. What she had just said could easily be taken as an act of treason. She had just insulted the integrity of the crown. "You're just like him. Stupid and blinded by ideologies of the old way," I said. I walked closer to her, seeing the striking effect of her electric blue eyes. Her eyes looked like they possessed cosmic energy that could power up galaxies. "I can't be your mate. I just proved that to you some minutes ago," I said, referring to the painful experience. "I know it's going to hurt a lot, but I have to reject you as my mate." I knew she would be sad if I rejected her, but there was no other way around it. I needed to be free from the jasmine scent that plagued my senses without warning. Naturally, she would be devastated to hear she was about to be rejected by the future alpha of the Red Moon Pack. Any girl in her position would feel the same way. "What are you waiting for them?" she asked. For a minute I stood shocked, unable to fully process what she had just said. She sounded as if she wanted to be rejected by me. She sounded relieved at my suggestion. "Are you serious?" I asked. I couldn't believe she was serious, but then she nodded. "Yes, sir. Go ahead and reject me." Her red hair looked like wildfire cupping her small cute face. The dried blood on her face was hers. Probably a guard using her as target practice. "What's this?" I asked, pointing at the blood on her face. She tried to wipe it off, but without water, she was just messing around. "Blood," she answered. "I know that," I said with a heavy sigh. "What I meant to ask was, why is there blood smear on your face?" "You know why it's there, plus you don't care, so just reject me and get it over with," she said as her body tensed. I walked up to her, giving her a gaze. She didn't flinch as she matched the look in my eyes with hers. "You look like you mean it," I mused. "Sure. I mean it." she said, confirming what I already knew. It was strange that she was fine with being rejected by one of the most powerful men in the world. She was nothing but a slave, for crying out loud. Okay then. I'm going to reject you now, I said. It's Lila Crestwood, right? She nodded. It pissed me off that she wasn't even the least bit shaken that she was about to be rejected. Was she stupid, or was it something related to stupidity? I, Kieran Blackwood, the future alpha of the Red Moon Pack, hereby reject you, Lila Crestwood, as my mate. Do you agree to this full mind and body? A smile crossed her face as she said, sure. I agree to it. Chapter 6 Impossible. Lila Crestwood, sure, I agree, I told him as I smiled. His face molded into a frown as I answered him. What the heck was he expecting? Was he expecting me to cry and beg on my knees for him not to reject me? Over my dead body? In his pathetic dreams? I swallowed a lump of saliva when I looked at him. His facial expression was still the same. His emerald green eyes sparkled, but I didn't give a damn. I just needed to leave here. Toilets and plates are waiting for me to be washed at their respective places. Even when I looked at him, I didn't feel anything. I don't even understand why the moon goddess had to mate me with this wicked man standing in front of me. You agreed to it, he said with anger laced in his voice. Why shouldn't I? I replied, staring back at him. My wolf, Helena screamed at me. I ignored her and faced the man in front of me. Get out, he muttered. Just what I wanted. Without saying anything, I turned back and limped to the door. I haven't healed yet. Kieran made it worse. Even worse. And never come back, he added, and I stopped. I turned back. I wasn't planning to, I said, and turned to leave. I headed for the door and twisted the knob. I left, but not without hearing him curse behind me. I don't care. And now I feel so happy. If he does anything with Riley again, it wouldn't affect me or my wolf. Walking down the hallway connecting the rooms, my mind drifted back to when Kieran was Riley. It hurts so much, but I just couldn't show it until Helena begged me to stop him. To avoid an incomplete reading experience. I knew he did that on purpose, just to make my life miserable. And I am happy to tell him that he has done a successful job in making my life a living hell. The excruciating pain, I couldn't bear it. I waved the thought off. He had rejected me, and that was it. No going back. I turned to the passage and headed for my room. I twisted the doorknob and I entered, and there, my room was always as empty as that. No one to talk to, no friends, no one to pour my pains to. I just had to stay on my own. My life is full of pain. I didn't waste any time going to the bathroom. I peeled my damp clothes off and I linked to grab the bucket. Grabbing the bucket, I filled it with water and I showered. After some minutes, I walked out of the bathroom and wiped my wet body with it. I discarded it on the line and I put a cloth on. I only had 4 clothes. 2 gowns, faded trousers, and a faded white top. I put on one of the gowns. I rested my back on the bed as I allowed Helena to heal, but during that time she wouldn't stop screaming in my head. I told her and she obeyed. Then the healing process began, but it was interrupted when someone barged in. I fluttered my eyes open. I stood up gently. My head aches a lot. I barely even see who entered. I wiped my eyes. So the slave is getting a nap while others are working their asses out, Shane yelled out. No ma'am. It's my break. I told her, but she glared at me. Shut up you! Riley yelled at me. But ma'am, I I wasn't allowed to finish talking when Shane landed a resounding slap on my cheek. Riley added hers. You shut up when we talk. You are nothing but a wretched slave brought to serve us with all your life. You star. Riley screamed at me. My eyes were soaked with tears. The pain I was feeling was terrible. I never wished for this kind of life at all. Never wished for all of this. I was the Alpha's daughter and now I was treated like a slave. Helena winced in pain as she absorbed my pain. Your useless father betrayed us. You are nothing but the traitor's daughter, crazy, stupid woman. Shane rained curses on me. I was about to raise my head at the mention of my father but I got slapped again and this time it was Riley who had slapped me. What audacity? Shane questioned. She slept with my man. Riley blurted. What? Did I sleep with Kieran? I didn't. You slept with my brother. Shane widened her eyes. No, I swear I didn't, I shouted. I sprang up. I needed to get things straight. Even if I was only a slave here, I had never slept with Kieran ever before. He rejected me and so what can't they understand? Get back on your knees. Riley threatened. No, I refused. Riley gasped and she suddenly burst into tears. No, she is lying. Riley pointed at me. I am not lying. I am telling the truth. I have never slept with Kieran and he has rejected me. Get back on your knees, Lila. My brother would never be mated to a slave. Not now and not ever. You slut. Shane cursed at me. I won't get on my knees whether she likes it or not. You crazy. Riley added. They both said horrible things to me. Things I couldn't comprehend or fathom. They both rained curses on me. They hit me in the face. Riley stepped on my stomach when Shane pushed me to the floor. I gasped for air. Riley did terrible things to me and now they wanted me to do all of the chores at the palace. Impossible chores I couldn't do. Wash the entire clothes and plates of everyone in the pack, sweep and mop the floor, cleaning the entire mess made by all of the members of the pack. I knew Riley hated me when she first set her eyes on me. Even Shane. She had never approved of me for her brother. She hated me with every guy she possessed. And I don't know what I had never done to deserve her hate. It's like she doesn't want me alive. She supports everything Shane does. They both made my life a living hell. A living hell. Chapter 7 Fiber of Strength. You stupid! She yelled angrily, which was eclipsed with a hard smack on my face. My cheek burned from the impact, it was painful but I was used to it. You can't do anything right. She spat, kicking me in the ribs, continuing her assault. My weak body toppled over, hitting the ground, landing on my side with a thud, wincing in pain. I don't fight it anymore, I've had enough letting the pain take its course. Since Riley and Shane had stepped into my room I haven't rested, given difficult tasks to another and made up new ones just to see me suffer. It was already bad I had impossible tasks to tackle. Why did they have to torture me through it? Because they were cruel. I had cleaned all the dishes with a tiny toothbrush, swept the grounds, mopped the floors, washed the toilets, and now they were making me clean the chimney that was at least 9 feet up to the roof. Covered in sweat, black soot, and stains, my skin had been bruised badly, my hands marred in burns and feet in scraps, my hair a cobwebbed nest, and I hadn't even made a dent on the stains in the chimney. When I begged to get a better rag than the useless one I was using, I was cursed for being ungrateful and bashed till I wept bitterly, and they enjoyed every agonizing moment of it. With a throbbing head and weakened bones I had mistakenly knocked down the bucket of dirty water and now being tortured because one tiny drop of it had touched Shane's leg. You're nothing but a pathetic slut. She cursed harshly, looking down on me like worthless trash before kicking me by the side, then digging her heels in my stomach, almost bursting through my skin. I bite my bottom lips hard enough to draw blood, squinting my eyes closed as I sobbed quietly, struggling to breathe. "Don't worry, it will be over soon," Helena howled in pain as she kept twisting her ankle to intensify the torment. I don't know if she was referring to the pain or Shina's heels would eventually burst my belly, killing me at this point. It's all I hoped for. Death would be a far better option than this never-ending torturous, miserable abyss I call life. "Why don't we show the whole pack what a slut she is?" Riley said, or I think she did. My head was spinning as I zoned in and out of reality as the welcoming darkness beckoned to me, hypnotizing me by promises to take the pain away, to end all my suffering, but Helena begged to stay strong. "What do you have in mind?" Shina replied with a menacing chuckle. Whatever new way Riley was plotting to torture me had Shina so intrigued she removed her leg from my abdomen. "Heal me," I begged inwardly. The pain was unbearable, my insides were burning. What had I ever done to deserve all this? I didn't choose the life of a slave or to be Kieran's mate. Faith had played a sick game on me, mocking me. I was so focused on the throbbing pain I didn't realize the crowd of guards circled around me. Blinking back tears, I noticed them smiling evilly with hunger looks focused on my breasts. Don't touch me!" I demanded. My voice came out hoarse, sliding backwards, my gaze fearfully flickering across the guards with devilish grins. The slight futile movement escalated the pain. I was outnumbered with nowhere to run. "Don't you want to play?" one guard said, grinning widely, crouching low, smothering his rough hand on my boobs. "How dare you?" I warned sternly, pushing it away, scanning the environment to see if anyone was watching this. The wicked grins on Riley and Shine's faces reveal their intentions. I gave them a revolting glare as my belly knots in disgust, then fear. They were women too. How could they order guards to defile me in the middle of the room? My hands balls into a fist as Helen growled softly in rage. Another rough hand trails down my hand, reverting me back to the problem. There was no way I could outrun them, and a fight was a suicide mission. I forced the bile down my throat as it dawned on me I was trapped. "Please stop this!" I begged, tearing up, trying my best to scoot away, ending up hitting their legs and jerking away when I was touched. I was cornered in the circle of hungry wolves. Their hands periodically touched me and didn't stop. No matter how much I begged, pushed away, another hand still came. All the times I had suffered in these walls, I had always kept my decency. No matter how badly I was beaten, not accepting the advances any wolf made, I still made sure I was untouched. This would be the end of me. Gang abuse. I would never be able to bear the humiliation. Please. I'll never complain ever again. I'll avoid Kieran by all means. I'll do all your bidding. I'll worship the very ground you walk on, but please don't let this great sin to be committed, I yelled with every fiber of strength I had left. At this point my tears had blinded me, and I had no idea if Riley and Shina were still in the room or if they could hear my cries through the mocking laughter of the guards. These creatures were heartless, mocking me with dirty words and laughing each time I begged them to stop. One hand grabbed the neck of my gown, ripping the garment easily, almost stripping bare my breasts. I used my hands to hold my garment in place as I sobbed uncontrollably. "Enough!" a voice thundered, cutting through the room, which stopped the guards' assault, also sending shivers down my spine. I was grateful for whoever it was. The guards stopped, giving a safe distance. I hugged my knees to my chest, ashamed. Chapter 8: Curiosity. Kieran Blackwood. I had a lot of work to do, and it didn't help. Clarice, my wolf, keeps growling ferociously. The whole aura of the room made me uneasy, and I know he felt it too. Following my instincts, as it was futile trying to accomplish anything, I left the study to the main room where, to my dismay, a small crowd had formed. Riley and Shelby were laughing their asses off over the circle of guard. I almost left, frowning at the fact I left my business to watch their nuisances, but stopped in my tracks when I heard her cry out. Watching the circle of guards closely, I realized Lila was in the middle of them, covered in filth. One of them reached out, tearing her gown open, revealing a slight view of set of beautiful pale peaked breasts I had ever come across, making my groin budge and my wolf howl. I kept staring till she cradled them in her trembling hands and ripped gown. I glared at the scene filled with rage, my self-control hanging on a thread as I contemplated morphing into my wolf, skinning each and every one of them limb by limb, irritated they would dare do this. Enough, I screamed in my alpha tone. The guards scurried away from her quickly. She struggled to get away, her face twisting in pain, and I could see the bruises on her feet and arms. I would not have ever wished this on an enemy. How heartless could they possibly be? I looked towards Riley and Shine's stunned faces. Disgust crept through my features. Leave! I commanded, not sparing them another glance. It would take the moon goddess to stop me from ripping each and every one of them to pieces if they stayed in the room for a second longer. I'm glad for their sake they didn't hesitate or defy my orders. They all dashed away, leaving a hurting Lila behind. She tried to clean away her tears with her dirty injured hand, clutching onto what was left of her rags she used for clothes. Lila, I whispered softly, my anger dwindling a little as I felt sympathy for her. She scampered backwards, juddering. The poor thing was scared to the teeth. I pulled off my jacket, placing it in her reach. She didn't decline, taking it in her bruised hand, wrapping it around her shoulder, clutching it protectively. Thank you, she whimpered in a genuine tone and struggled off the ground. It took so much effort, I noticed. Her features twisted in pain, but that didn't stop her. She limps away, enduring it as she sobbed quietly. Even in her broken state she was still a fighter. Folding her hands in appreciation, she nodded her head in a bow and retained that position till she left the room. Lila Crestwood. In a million years I would never be able to believe Kieran would come to my rescue, but assimilating the fact it was his fault in the first place, my bitter hatred still lingered, but I'll forever be grateful. Riley and Shine will pay for their actions one way or another, and that was a stone-cold promise. They had taken advantage of my weakness, now I was going to use that as my greatest alibi. As I walked through the walls, my head low in shame, I could still feel their stares and hear their pitiful murmurs. My rage grows and a new deep hatred is born. After a few hours of scrubbing and scrubbing till my skin burned, disgusted at myself as I cried, having Helena plotting on the things to do to Riley and Shine my company. If I wanted to survive I needed to heal, and Helena didn't need to be told to do just that. Wake up, slave! I gasped, awake at the jolt of pain from my ribs. I had cried myself to sleep without realizing. You are to clean the armory, he commanded in a cold tone, not glancing at me even once, leaving as abruptly as he came. I hurried off the ground, whimpering as I felt a sharp pain. My healing process hadn't been completed but was enough to get me into the equipment room and to the armory. I had never been told to carry out this task before and had a strong feeling Riley and Shine were behind this, but there was nothing I could do about it. The armory was towards the east wing of the pack house, where the warriors kept their weaponry and vests used for war, made in bronze and metal that had exquisite detailing and the pack logo inscribed, and I was instructed to clean and polish each and every one of them. Left alone in the slightly dark room, I pick up a dagger, twirling it in my hand before removing the scabbard, the blade lustrous even in the dark. A thought crosses through me that I should take my life there and now, and I reveled in it, seeing my reflection on the blade trailing a finger through the edge. Ouch! I squealed, dropping the dagger. The small cut pulled me out of my trance. Quickly I picked it, wiping the blood stain off it, then returned it back to its position, focusing my mind on my bidding. Though an unpleasant job, I did it happily, with no stupid Shine yelling in my face or no troll-faced Riley roaring orders at me. Finishing the last sword, I grabbed the bucket, opening the door to leave. I bumped into a huge figure head first, stumbling backwards. The bucket rocked in my hand while rubbing the ache in my temples. Malia, he had called me, a name I had heard before but couldn't quite place where. Averting my head upwards to where he stood, his brown eyes widened in horror. Hesitantly he fled the room. Confused, I pondered what the heck just happened, curiosity piqued. I hurried through the door searching the hallway for the man, but he was long gone. My eyes widened in shock as I realized where I had heard that name from. Malia, that was my mother's name. Chapter 9 Lycanthrope. Lila Crestwood. Terror gnaws at my gut as memories flood my mind, holding the door frame as support. My legs felt wobbly as tears brimmed my eyes. Memories that I didn't let invade my mind came rushing crashing in waves. My facial features were of my mom's, her lips, her high cheekbones, her smile, and my red hair, but I had my father's eyes and his blood of a fighter. My mom was Luna of our pack and my father Alpha. They ruled side by side, an undisputed pair with the strong, brave, no-nonsense character from my dad and caring, forgiving, and tigress heart of my mom. They built the pack to the empire it was, one of the greatest and courageous pack that no one dared attack. Our warriors skilled to the teeth, always prepared, and won every battle they face. She'd gone missing before that fateful night. A search party had been organized, instructed by my father and led by his beta. They never returned. The night my world came crashing down when my father was deemed a traitor alongside a few other alphas. He had accepted his judgment bravely, with his head held high, claiming the truth will reveal itself as a swear upon the moon goddess. I was angry the Lycanthrope Council found him guilty. How easily their loyalty could switch, neglecting all the sacrifices he had made and committed, an effort he had put in to maintain peace and sovereignty. Being Alpha, a man who I admired, who I looked up to, my role model, my father, I loved wholeheartedly, and the moon goddess watched how this cruel judgment made a powerful Alpha beg to his knees for my life to be spared. 10 years young, only 10 years young. I witnessed my father punished for a crime he did not commit, though all the evidence said otherwise. I didn't believe in it. The whole system was corrupt and biased. My heart breaks into pieces each time I hear his cries. They didn't give him the liberty of saying goodbye as he was dragged, stripped to only shorts and wiped like an animal in front of everyone, and no one stopped it. No goddamned person showed up when we needed them the most. To avoid an incomplete reading experience. Our great pack that had been built for years crumbled to dust as they burned everything to the ground, and I was given a life worse than death. Who was that man, and why had he called my mother's name? My hand grips the bucket hard as my knuckles whitened. If he knows something about her sudden disappearance or my father's case, I was going to find out, no matter how many rules I'll need to break. Heavy footsteps were heading this way, reminding me I shouldn't be in here. Recklessly I wiped away my tears, exiting the room to wash the utensils and drop them back in their respective places. The pack house was empty and dead silent. I suddenly grew a certain phobia for being cooped up in the house and made a quick, impulsive decision. Instead of heading to my room, I sneaked through the back, avoiding the few guards who still roamed the dark walls, to the kitchen, which as expected was empty. The pack had already eaten dinner while I was cleaning the armory, and I'm sure my petty food had been dumped in my room, if what I consume deserves the title to be called food. The piles of dishes mock me, fully aware I was going to clean them up in the morning, is the more reason why I needed a break from this hell. Making sure I unlocked the door without making a sound, I tiptoed through the door, leaving the prison. It was dead cold. The breeze hit my face, sending my hair wild in various directions. I breathe the night air greedily, loving the chill. It momentarily distracts me from my pathetic life. The woods call to me in the distance, and Helena growls in approval, shutting my mind off the million reasons that screamed it was a bad idea. I climbed down the steep hill. The pack house was built on looking over my shoulder. The coast was clear, not a wolf in sight, making me bolder as I walked closer and closer into the forest. The temporary taste of freedom is addictive, and I'm tempted to relish in it. Let Helena take control, go for a wild run not too far off, but since I had no clothes I dead the idea and enjoyed the fine scenery, relaxing my tense limbs. I seek refuge in the woods, the noisy creepy creatures, the ever-cracking crickets, the small line of water that runs to the river, everything I could temporarily gain joy from, something to keep my sanity in check. The first time I tried running away through the woods, which looked different now, only to disclose the fact that escape was impossible. They had guards protecting the borders and smelled my scent from a mile away. I had been stupid and reckless back then. I remember how badly I had been tortured, when Kieran found me, the first day we meet. I had just clocked 18, not that birthdays meant a thing, I remember it because that day I was gifted with my best friend Helena. The man stood tall in front of me, his long blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail but a lock had come loose framing his forehead, his green eyes in a stone-cold gaze, his lips in a frown. He looked at me pathetically. I heard about the Alpha Kieran, but the rumors were not enough to justify the man I saw. His aura of power so strong girls worshipped his name but no one dared go close to him. He was an intimidating, scary man and it was stupid but I had no choice but to find him irresistible. That was the curse of the mate bond. While I stared at him in awe, he looked at me irritated. I remembered how he laughed at me with no humor in his tone, stating the moon goddess had played a sick joke and Alpha, as skilled and powerful as him, gifted a mate, a goddamn slave. He slapped me across the face, making me fall to my knees. It hurt, but the mate bond was still sending sparks erupting from where his hand touched. I had been slapped a few times, but the mate bond made the pain torturous. As I questioned my very existence, I was nothing but a miserable slave, not worthy to be his Luna. It was a fact, but it still hurt. The excruciating pain of rejection I had only heard of, but now my fate. He had dragged me back to the pack house where they tied me up in the dungeon and whipped me for 2 days for daring to escape. They also starved me for days and still made me carry out my duties in my fatigued state. Time and time again I could feel the deep penetration in my chest and soon understood it was because Kieran was with another woman, a woman who wasn't me, his mate. A punishment I felt was unfair. Why should I be tortured for him being with another? He somehow blamed me for what wasn't in my control. Irritated by the mere look at me, he straight up despised me being alive and knew he was hurting me, but didn't stop as he jumped from one lady to another who happily fell at his feet. As time went by, I had discovered a way to think about the man without it ripping my heart out, but the pain in my chest kept hitting differently, the only pain I couldn't get used to. A tide deeper than blood, a tide I hate just as much as I detest Kieran. I had come to hate the man that was the only way to make the pain bearable. I take deep breaths, clearing my thoughts, realizing I had gone too deep into the forest, letting my legs go to any direction it pleased, where the moonlight hardly seeped through the tall trees. When I picked a sweet scent that intoxicated my senses of honey and caramel, and I didn't hesitate to follow without caring, it led me deeper and deeper into the woods. Following the scent, avoiding scrubs, dirt and boulders to get to my aim, a wolf, a beautiful one. I'm awestruck by the gorgeous man standing a few feet away as I tiptoed to stand as close as possible, not wanting to be caught or interrupt his meditation. I had seen him before from a distance, I realized, but never up close like this, or shirtless. His forbidden beauty made me gawk at him. He was as big as Kieran but not quite as bulky. He was wearing only shorts that hung low on slim his hips, his gorgeous body absorbing the moonlight, chest heaving up and down in ragged breaths like he had run a marathon, but I found drawn to, his sweat devilishly dripping from his neck down his broad chest, his abs then down his torso. His jawline, sharp eyes closed shut, framed by dark lashes beneath his full brows, his lips curved a little in a small smile as he ran his hand through his messy chocolate brown hair that made him look rugged. "You know I can sense you?" his deep voice asks in amusement. Startled, I stepped back, hiding behind the trees, wishing it could open up and I could hide inside as my cheeks turn pink like a teenager who was caught spying on her crush. "Who are you?" his melodic voice asks. Stepping closer, I sink deeper into the tree as my heart hammers hard in my chest, so loud I was sure he could hear it. "Lila," I whisper, forcing saliva down my throat. He stepped right in front of me, his dark eyes that I could drown in their depths rake down my body and goes darker, if that was even possible, a reaction I knew too well, disapproval. I dart my eyes away from his cold stare, playing with the bark of the tree, nervously waiting for him to dismiss me like all of them do. "Well Lila, I'm Dimitri," he said as his huge arms reach out to touch mine. He slowly glides one finger up my arm, leaving goosebumps where he touched, bringing me to a state of frenzy. I knew my cheeks will have turned bright red, and I'm grateful for the darkness that hides this. Gently placing his finger under my chin, he raised my face up to look him in the eye. Leaning closer, my heart raced as I judder in anticipation, daring to dream what that lips will taste like as I watch him closely. His eyes trailed from my eyes down my lips, the seductive moment bringing heat to my body, melt into complaints. I had never been sensitive in those areas before, and this gorgeous man was making me feel things in spots I never knew existed. Let her go. Chapter 10 Werewolf. Kieran Blackwood. We were patrolling the grounds in the woods. Suspicious activity had been reported coming from the area, an issue I had to survey myself, tagging Dimitri along just to be safe. Blood Moon packs were getting feisty. Some of their warriors had been caught trying to break through our defenses but were arrested and taken hostage. Through torturous means those morons knew nothing, revealing they were obeying commands from their pack and almost got away with it. I realized our soldiers were getting sloppy, too relaxed. They'd lost their quick instincts, their strong abilities, and it got me irritated. The best way to handle the issue was to see to it myself. The entrances to the pack house were three preeminent parts, and checking all three, the woods had the weakest point. It had outgrown over the years, and since most rogues and visitors came from to the other two parts, it was less guarded, consequently the easiest route for an attack, one I was banking on and had to be prepared for. Dimitri and I had been running through the woods, landmarking where new guards officially trained and seen through by me will be positioned. It won't be an easy task, so I had to make sure well-trained and dedicated soldiers would do this. I won't risk the safety of our pack in the hands of feeble guards, especially now Alpha Xavier was just itching for a war and we were not going to back down. Dimitri had gotten tired, stating he was going to head back. He had finished his side of the forest earlier than I did, so I permitted it, having a few more grounds to cover before heading back, and Callias was still energetic enough to go for more. Running not far off, I inhaled her scent, jasmine. It was a slight fragrance but enough to direct to the path where she was. We reset our course, returning back from where we had come, the scent becoming stronger, and another one came through, one I knew too well, Dimitri's. I watched them through Callias's eyes, who was ready to pounce on Dimitri, but the irrational decision wasn't a mistake and Alpha shouldn't make. I had too many enemies and Dimitri wasn't a warrior I'd like to lose. I transformed back to my human form, pulling on jeans and a shirt the forest had hidden clothes for this purpose. I had controlled my temper, taking deep breaths before heading to where I knew Dimitri had sensed me. His muscles tenses, but he still doesn't leave her, ignoring my presence entirely. The audacity! But she was completely clueless, trapped in the spell Dimitri was weaving, perspective as he glides his fingers seductively up her arm. The sight movement stirs something inside of me, something I've been trying to ignore, an insatiable craving, a burning desire. I wanted this woman, badly. The same one every time I set my eyes on had felt hatred towards, judging her by her status, not being only a slave but the daughter of a traitor. The pack would feel a resentment towards our pair, but that didn't matter. Now I intently watched the way she bites her bottom lip unconsciously, and her eyes flutter with so much admiration. I should be the one she looks at that way, the one who touches her that way, the one who she wants. Clenching my jaw, I stand watching the scene stupefied. Dimitri leaned in closer. He had a certain rule for women ever since his mate betrayed him and he was kicked out from his pack. He became a rogue and started seeing women as tools, knowing exactly what made them tick. Always had a hidden agenda for all the women he'd come across. I wasn't going to let him add my mate to the long list of broken hearts. Let her go, I commanded in my alpha tone. She cringes as her eyes flashed in recognition. Dimitri steps in front of her, protecting her like I was a threat. He seemed unraveled by my command, just like he always had been. he was a well-trained soldier, he had my back and vice versa through many battles, a rogue before we accepted him into our pack, so he had seen and dealt with the worst of things, but I had an advantage. Even if Dmitri was senseless enough to fight and somehow manage to survive, the whole pack will hunt him down, he have to sleep with both eyes opened, and I know he's not stupid enough to pick a fight with his alpha. Kieran, you're done I see, he said in a low friendly tone with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Let her go back to the pack house, I say, striding closer, ignoring his comment only if he knew how close I was to snapping, holding on to the fragile composure to not kill him there and then. His smile dropped as he raised a brow, clearly not wanting to obey my orders. I'll take her back then, he says, snaking his hand with hers. The gesture pushed me one edge closer to the brink of annihilation. Don't worry about her, I'll take her with me, I replied austerely. I got it covered, he opposed. You. Actually. Her angelic voice came interrupting me. I'll take myself back, thank you, she said in a matter-of-fact tone, trying to pull away from Dmitri's grip, but he didn't let go till she mouthed I'll be fine, which I heard because of my keen werewolf hearing ability. He slowly brings her hand to his lips, leaving her light-headed, looking like she was about to melt, before letting go. We both stared at her as she disappeared through the woods. No roaming around in the forest at late hours, it would not be tolerated, she could be punished, I say solemnly, and so could you, I add as a treat, hoping he'll get the memo and stay away from her. Yes, Alpha, he said through gritted teeth, his tone laced with venom. Lila is my territory and I wanted to make it clear to everyone whether they approve of it or not. Chapter 11 Background. Lila Crestwood. I avoided both men for the rest of the week. No, scratch that, I avoided Kieran since Dmitri hardly ever is at the pack house. It was not a hard job, honestly. Whenever I felt his scent close, I reverted back in the other direction. It worked well till we bumped into one another. He seemed to be in a hurry. I bowed down nonchalantly, paying my respect, and since he was with two other people he let me go. Except that day he had saved me from Riley and China, he was always ashamed to be seen talking to me in public. Things hadn't changed between us. I still despised him just as much as I did before, but lately it has been awkward. It was stupid, but I felt a pull towards him. It's tiny, but I could still feel it deep within my gut, and my thoughts kept drifting simultaneously to both men. In my dreams I usually start off getting into bed with Dmitri but end up being with Kieran. The dream haunted me at night, so I overworked myself to the point I didn't have the strength to dream but ended up waking up with his name on my lips, Kieran. It was a roller coaster mess. While bathing, I poured water on myself, having this irresistible feeling that it was Dmitri's hand all over me as I trail my hand seductively all over myself till I moan out in pleasure. It frightened me how one day could have so much effect on me, and honestly I didn't know how to feel about the whole situation. I also found a gift basket outside my door. It didn't identify who it was from, but it had my name on it, a set of new clothes, gowns, trousers, shirts, and underwear, not fancy but simple, exactly to my taste, the beauty of simplicity. They were a size smaller than the old worn-out ones I had, but the slight change was comfortable, and the clothes perceived of Jasmine. Till date I still had no clue who sent them, but I could swear I had seen Kieran smile seeing me wear one of the trousers he kept his distance from, and I appreciated it. Riley also sticked around with her ever bug-eyed side chick Shina. They sent death glares at my new clothes. If looks could kill, I'll be 6 feet under, but they didn't make any move to send me on any job, but I see their satisfied grins each they saw me mopping, cleaning, or washing. I still haven't forgotten about them, and I never will till I get my revenge. No matter how long it takes, one step at a time it will unveil, but for now I was ordered to go clean the dungeons. Ugh! How much I hate doing that. I would rather clean 20 toilets than one dungeon. Walking towards it I see 2 guards dragging away a corpse. A badly beaten wolf. I almost puked out my insides at the sight and horrible smell, but I clutched my belly hard, forcing it back down, repeating the mantra, "I'll be one to clean it up if I vomited all over the floor." Walking through the metal doors, the sight was horrific, making me scrunch my nose, disgusted. The place was a bloodied mess and I couldn't tell for sure, but I highly suspected that it was wolf body parts that were spilled on the floor. I crouched low, grabbing a bucket and dustpan, feeling nauseous as I scoop a pan full of blood into the bucket. After scrubbing for a very long time, I had come to the conclusion the blood stain was not leaving from the spot on the floor. I tried my best, but the stubborn stain still didn't budge. The guards approved of my work, telling me to leave the equipment behind and they'll get rid of them. My purple gown had been ruined. I sigh sadly, making up my mind to wear my old ones anytime I clean the dungeons or toilets. I hear a piercing grunt supervened by the clash of metal on metal. Looking at the hallway, the guards were focused on the conversation they were having. They didn't notice me sneaking the other way to investigate what the sound was. The arena was full, the crowd of people sitting in a semicircle cheering the two men in the middle, Dmitri and Kieran. Dmitri hits Kieran from behind, hitting him with his sword. Kieran stumbles forward but recovers quickly, twisting sharply, raising his sword to block Dmitri's from hitting him. The crowd goes wild and I must confess the brawl was electrifying to watch. "Good job both of you." A man by the side in an all-black attire stood observing the fighters. "I'm guessing their trainer." Again his voice echoes. The two men stand 2 feet apart, staring daggers at one another in a rotational movement, both out of breaths and sweating profusely. Dmitri is the one to break the moment, attacking with full force and elegant speed. Kieran tries his very best to counter all his attacks, almost losing his balance, but strengthens his stance, digging his feet in the dirt. Dmitri chuckles, lightly pulling back his blade, walking away. He turns towards my direction like he knew I was standing there, giving me a warm smile. Distracted, Kieran uses the opportunity to give a cheap shot to Dmitri's arm. "Stay focused, Dmitri," the trainer warns sternly. Dmitri nods, doing just that. Watching Kieran like a prey he was about to pounce on the friendly duel turns into a violent brawl as the attacks come in more often, the click and clack of steel so powerful it erupts through the sound of the excited crowd. Dmitri uses a smart move, attacking Kieran from the side, then above his head. Kieran bends over to dodge Dmitri by a few inches before Kieran could recoup. He kicks him on the leg, making Kieran fall to the ground. "Kieran, your stance was off." The trainer's voice trails into the background when Dmitri looks towards my direction and winks at me with a triumphant smile. I blush, my insides turn to jelly as I look at my feet, almost missing when Kieran flipped back to his feet, cutting Dmitri on the leg, watching a stunned Dmitri as his face twisted in pain. The room blares in shock. "Jesus Kieran, you almost cut the dang leg off." The trainer stops him. He pulls off the sword that drips with Dmitri's blood. Dmitri's face reveals the agonizing pain he must be feeling as he drops to his knee, the sword pinned to the ground, holding him up. All the while he was in pain, his gaze didn't leave mine. My shaking hand goes up, my trembling lips concealing my scream as I watched the horrific moment in terror. Chapter 12, Squeezing. Lila Crestwood. Unknowingly, I race forward, sliding on my knees just in time, catching Dmitri as he slumps on my thighs. He was in severe pain. "Hey Lila Crestwoods, you like spying, don't you?" he jokes, every word taking a lot of effort to say. His body shudders underneath me. I touch the side of his hard face softly as a way of comfort, laughing sadly as tears that I wasn't aware of fell dropping on his hair. "Someone get a doctor!" I yelled to no one in particular. "It's just a cut. He's a man, he can take care of himself," Kieran said, emotionless, unfazed by what he had done. I bite the inside of my cheeks, concealing the vile words I wanted to say to him. He was Alpha and I a slave who wasn't supposed to be here to begin with. Dmitri, hands slowly rubbing my knuckles, relaxing the fists. I intertwined my hand with his and smiled a little as he mouths, "I'll be fine, just like I did the first time we met." Please move. People holding a stretcher requested, disrupting the moment. Dmitri struggled to his feet and I helped him sit on the stretcher while they had a hard time carrying the huge man. He was losing a lot of blood, the cut must be grave, Kieran had taken it too far. I glared at him one last time before following the medical team, exiting the arena, the crowd muttering as we left. I wasn't allowed to go to the pack hospital even after Dmitri insisted to. It was ineffective. He gave me a weak smile as they left the pack house. The guards instructed me to clean the blood. To avoid an incomplete reading experience. A job I did with my heart in my mouth, judging hands and eyes still widened in shock, unbelieving it was Dmitri blood I was cleaning. I had a hard time sleeping the night before. Each time I tried I couldn't help but see Dmitri's pained features and it made me uneasy, having no clue how he was faring. Yes, I knew he is a well-trained soldier, but a soldier wasn't immortal, neither was a werewolf. Even with the healing abilities of a wolf it would still take time to recover unless I managed to meet him, and I was working towards just that. I multitasked on today's chores. While the clothes were in the washer I was cooking. While washing the plates I mopped the floors. Putting the clothes in the dryer I washed the toilets. Finally I folded the last piece and smiled at the sunlight passing through the windows, indicating I had time to spare before my evening routine of chores. Today the pack house was less busy and only guards on the entrance and exits were on duty. I had overhead. It was as a result of the frequent arena fights. The guards looked tense and a bit distracted, their faces going paler when they heard the crowd cheer. Just perfect, I could work at my favor. After a good bath and wearing the prettiest black gown I had, I dabbed under my eyes with a rag to soften the heavy eye bags. I never cared about my looks, not once, but today it bothered me. I had skimmed away to sneak to the pack's hospital, grabbing fruits and vegetables with a fruit knife I'll need later from the kitchen into the gift basket I had received earlier. I walked with my head high to the main doors. Halt, the first guard voice commands. Where do you think you're going? He asked sharply. The Alpha instructed. Dmitri receives this fruit basket, I say in a blunt tone. If I do so much as show even a bit of weakness or quiver, I'm sure I will be caught and punished, and luckily I work well under pressure. The guard shares a look with the other, who just shrugs off. He looks back at me, watching me with keen interest from my head to my feet in silence. That was killing me, gripping the basket. You can go. My chest heaves down, releasing the breath I had no idea I was holding as I walk out on wobbly legs till I was out of sight. The pack hospital wasn't far off from the house. I spotted easily, the sign bold outside leading me to it. I walk through the double doors into the white-colored building, a receptionist just up ahead behind a counter busy on her computer. Walking up to her, hey, I say, drawing her attention from the computer. She was wearing a white nursing attire with a red heartbeat sign on top her bust, her black hair pulled in a ponytail. How may I help you? She says, looking at me for a slight second but quickly diverted back to her computer typing hard. I hear the keys crying for mercy. Dmitri. I'm here to see Dmitri, up ahead to your left, second door to the right, she responded, not looking from her computer. Thank you, I mutter. Some kind of hospital this is. I walked as she instructed, my stomach coiled in repulsion. I hate the stench of hospitals and being in one. I reach the brown door and take a peek through the circle glass opening on the door. His hand on his ABS, a small brown bandage connected to the drip by his side. His leg had been wrapped in a white strap stained with blood. He wasn't wearing a shirt and I can't help but to ogle at the body. Taking a deep breath, I brace myself as I twist the doorknob, entering the room. His lips curved up to a smirk, looking relaxed behind closed lids. Lila Crestwood, he calmly says, opening his eyes and his lips now in a full-bloom grin. I blush, tucking my red hair behind my ears, loving the way he said my name, or maybe because of the fact he's probably the only one that ever did. Other people just referred to me as slave. You can call me Lila, Dmitri. I reply, stepping closer. Okay Lila. Stewards, he adds and chuckles lightly when I fake a frown. What's that? He asks, sitting upright looking in the direction of the basket in my hand. Just a little present I put together as a get-well gift. I know it's not much, I say, placing it forward embarrassed. It's perfect to me. Reaching out, he grasps an apple in his palm and takes a small bite, the gesture making me feel heat in between my legs. It has been rumored you can know how a guy kisses by the way he eats an apple. I'm suddenly in need to taste his lips. He must be an excellent kisser. Except for the veggies, of course. He sticks out his tongue playfully. I was half listening as my mind runs wild of the sinful things I'll love that mouth to do, but I still laugh, making him believe I understood the joke. Tossing the apple back into the basket, he pats the side of his bed, indicating I come sit. Placing the basket on the table at the spot he just touched, he shifts a little to accommodate my wide thighs. It's hurting, hey? I ask and immediately regret it. Of course it's going to hurt. What a dumb question, I say in my head. Nah, it's nothing, I've been hurt worse. He waves it off like a small wound, but I can tell he's lying. I can help with that if you're comfortable with it though, I say, looking down at my black dress, tugging at it nervously, anticipating his reply. Not a fan of sorcery, but I'm open to ideas, he says in mock pretense. I rolled my eyes, not in any way amused. It was a secret not a lot of people know. He stays silent, watching me calmly, his eyes dancing in delight. I'm grateful for his patience. It's my blood, I say, forcing the words out. Your blood, he asks, raising a brow. Yes, I replied shyly. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I'm not a vampire. I can see that. I rolled my eyes, grabbing the fruit knife. I'll cut myself, you can attest to it yourself. Whoa, I don't want you getting hurt, he says, gripping the knife before it could come in contact with my skin. Don't worry, I've been hurt worse, I imitate him, smiling. He doesn't return it, glaring at me with a grumpy look, making my heart flutter because he cares about me. Do you trust me? I place my hand above his, still clutching the knife. We lock gazes and I feel an instant connection to this man, sending shivers down my spine and butterflies in my belly. Yes, he breathes, letting go of the knife but still keeping his gloom look. I return back to what I intended doing, placing the knife below my wrist directly horizontal to my vein, and pull hard, digging the knife into my flesh, making a clean cut. The small pain spreads through me as blood seeps out. I drew my hand towards him, who was staring like I had gone mad. I nod, bending my head slightly, encouraging him to do it. With a sigh, he holds my arm in both hands, holding it steady, placing gentle kisses on each finger before licking the flesh above the cut, making my heart beat so fast in words I can't pronounce. Finally he sucks on my blood. It starts out easy, his tongue playing on the cut, then his grip tightens on my arm, sucking hungrily, making me moan, lost in his touch. I arch my back, shutting my eyes as my body judders, caused by the dangerous desire for the feel of him. My hand tugs at his hair, running through the thick mass. With one swift lick he pulls away, looking at me, his eyes glowing, revealing his need for me. His tongue trails down his full lips, licking it seductively. He sneaks his hand behind my back, pulling me closer to him, and suddenly we're back to the first day we meet. Without further ado he crashes his lips on mine, taking me fully, and my body responds to him quickly. His lips taste like nectar on my lips, a divine taste that has my body yearning for more. I straddle on top of his laps, the rush of desire violently burns within. His hands trails down, cupping me, squeezing hard, making me rock on his erection. He breaks from my lips, trailing kisses on my neck. I want you so much, he purrs between kisses, pulling my dress low, and continues his seductive assault, burying his head in between the orbs of my breasts, making moan. Oh God, I want you so much, baby, he says, pulling on my bottom lip in between his teeth, licking the top and bottom before sinking it inside mouth. Lila. Chapter 13. Tonight. Kieran Blackwood. She abruptly gazes in my direction with a venomous glare that makes my heart clench within. I know I had no right to feel this way, I had hurt her a million times over and this ache was nothing compared to her scars. I noticed the eye contact they made in between the duel, making my eyes go dark, blinding me with rage. I spun to my feet swiftly, cutting him fiercely on the leg. Shortly I smirked at the victory till she ran in to catch him on her legs. I have seen her cry before, out of pain, when she was being tortured. I had always thought she had a stone-cold heart or no heart at all. She looked at me just like she had always done all these years, with vile hatred. Now it hits differently because she did it because of Dmitri, and I wanted to cut him 10 times over, gripping the sword hard as she stared at him like he was the only thing that mattered. It was pitiful to see him sprawled on the floor looking helpless. I had seen Dmitri take a bullet to the chest, a sword to the gut and an arrow to the leg, but he had never acted so pitiful. He was playing the victim in this story, making me the villain when I'm not, or am I? The medics came. She helped him to his feet, sitting on the stretcher. The whole time I watched as they started leaving, she glanced back at me like she wanted me dead, clueless on how much pain I underwent secretly. Today was a million times worse. The pain of seeing her with another man was enough to bring me to my knees, kissing another man, and he had the guts to handle her like she belonged to him. Maybe she did. I stood here watching the whole episode, Callias growling, feeling the severe pain, snarling it was all my fault. I knew I deserved everything. I was getting every nerve-wracking moment. It dawned on me I had to let her go, sitting in her shoes. I don't deserve a woman as strong as she. She had been feeling this very anguish all these years, never so much as complaining once. No, I couldn't do this to her anymore, taking a step backward. I looked away, my eyes tearing up. I had to let her go no matter how badly it would hurt or break me. She deserved to be happy. Lila Crestwood, Lila. Dmitri breaths on my lips, breaking the moment I whine sadly at the loss of contact, gasping for air. Baby, you better stop before I flip you over and take you from behind right here right now, he says in a husky tone, and I'm suddenly conscious we were making out in a hospital. The most rad thing I had ever done. My insides were doing backflips as I slowly climbed off his lap to sit by his side. I didn't say you should leave, he grumbles, reaching out and smacking my butt. In a weird way I would enjoy him doing so, once more frowning at him but smiling within. It in a way worked. I can hardly feel the pain in my leg. He shakes his leg in evidence, looking like he'd seen a ghost. Really, vampire, I say, raising a brow, amused. Unpopular fact: the blood of my pack had healing abilities, a gift given to elders by the moon goddess long before I was born, passing through generations. Now I was the only left with the gift as far as to my knowledge. Honestly, I can't feel the injury, Dmitri says, his eyes going dark, touching his leg. His eyes widened in shock as he recklessly rips the bandages. The wound, he gulps. The wound is gone, Dmitri says, watching me suspiciously. How is that possible? I don't know why, but I reveal to him the secret, knowing fully aware of the dangers, not feeling concerned. Whenever I'm around him I feel like a bird, acting freely like I had known him for a very long time. Our bodies unites like we have been bound by the mate tide, but the attraction looks rather planned than the mate bond. So I owe you one. He looks at me like a priceless possession before leaning for a soft kiss, pulling away shortly. Why don't I repay the favor? He says, more like a statement than a question, dragging the syringe out his arm. Not waiting for my reply, he buried the bed, staggering a little before getting used to it. He smiles at me, pulling me off the bed, twirling me in his arms. What are you doing? I giggled. Repaying the favor, let's go to my place, he says, rubbing the back of my hand softly. Your house? I was puzzled. Yes, it's not far away from here, let's bust the joint. No, I don't think that's a good idea. I need to get back to the back house and continue my duties, I declined politely. His jaw clenches and he's evidently disturbed by what I said, but quick to hide the emotion. I'll take you back in time, I promise, and rip anyone apart who tries to harm you, even if I have to convince the whole house myself. I won't let anything happen to you." He had held my both hands in his, standing a feet apart, looking directly into my eyes as he said the words. I trust my safety into the hands of this man, nodding in approval as tongue felt numb. His smile brightens up the room as he spins me one more time. "Shouldn't we get a doctor or something? And you can't possibly go out like that," I say, rolling my eyes on his beautiful shirtless body and shorts. "Nah, the ladies don't mind." He winks in my direction. I fake a smile, feeling a pang of jealousy as he mentioned the ladies, and it gets worse as we walk into the hallway. Females kept yelling at him. I saw a bleeding woman but still looked in his direction, of Dimitri, enchanted by his charm, which he doesn't seem to notice, holding my hand tight in his. For some reason I smile, keeping my head low as they started daggers my way. "You stay here, I'm coming," without questioning why I trust the man with my life. He left me on the pavement close to the road, not a car in sight, and even if there was, his blue convertible, it would have overshadowed it. My jaw drops as I stare at the beauty sitting in the driver's side, Dimitri, now wearing a black top. "Hopin' Coochie looks like you like maid, maybe?" I question, going to the second door and get it. "Yes babe, my first baby, had it brought to me this morning. I had planned to leave. It was better that I nursed myself in my home than the hospital. I hate the smell, making me chuckle. I know exactly how he feels. Dimitri drives smoothly through the road. I had never been outside the pack house before, not knowing there was another world out in the open. I pick a scent, not a werewolf. I shift uncomfortably in the sit. "We're here." I look at the small car building and smile. Not bad, but he doesn't. Stobith car driving forward, stopping in front of a luxurious house. He must be joking, right? "Welcome to my humble home." Taking in the huge building in front of me, I freeze in my seat, unbelieving. "Come out, would you?" Dimitri had opened the car door, his hand outstretched. Taking it, he pulled me out the car into the gates. He buzzes in on the small device, then the gate slides open. "Welcome, sit." Reaching the flight of stairs, a huge man in black suit bows his head while Dimitri tosses him the car keys, which he catches mid-air. Back in the pack house, I had done everything for everyone, and here I was, everything was being done for me by humans. I declined the makeup they wanted to use on me, but I was comfortable in my skin. We had shuffle through the masses of clothes and back, still all the dresses making me cringe, so tiny and tight. I wonder how they fit. I finally settled. "The dress looks perfect on you." I give a small smile, pulling the gown down, not liking it myself. I wear flats, then the pointing heels that looked uncomfortable to wear. "Mr. Dimitri said we should blindfold you to where he was." "Why?" I asked, confused, shifting to see the maid's fate fully. "He didn't say, but hoped you trusted him enough to do it." I wouldn't have a clue why, but I still let them, after making them promise they won't let me fall. I walk wobbly as the maids hold my hands, leading me according to Dimitri. "I'll take it from here," I hear Dimitri say. The hands in my palms switched to a rather strong one. "One more step, don't fright." "Okay, now sit down." I bend, almost tipping the chair over, but Dimitri holds it steady. "You look stunning tonight, baby," he whispers, hot on my neck, planting a small kiss on my cheeks. "Please, can you remove it now? I'm dying to see what you got planned, and plus my eyes are hurting," I say, waving my hands carelessly in the air, looking for him. Okay, settle down." He squeezed my hands lightly as he removed the blindfold from my eyes. I flutter my lashes, the light a bit bright, before settling on the dinner table in front of me. Chapter 14, Respect. Lila Crestwood. The dinner table was beautifully decorated, covered in a red tablecloths, the silverware of different sizes of spoons, forks and knives placed on both sides. In between, a silver plate turned upside down, by the side a glass cup turned the same way, underneath a red napkin, the same arrangements for the other side. But what draws my attention the most is the wall behind, made of red reflective translucent glass. The room was beautifully lit up, and though there weren't any windows, the room has a cool temperature. "You like it?" Dimitri asks in a whisper behind me. I nod affirmatively, finding it hard to speak. "Good, I did it all by myself." He kisses my cheeks, his footsteps light on the tiled floor. For me lady, he was wearing a grey tuxedo with a white shirt and a tie, his hair perfectly gel to the side. He looked like the perfect gentleman. Then I noticed the bouquet of flowers he was trying to hide behind him. To the lady that saved my life he walks closer, tightening my chin, placing a warm kiss on my lips. "We better have dinner before I eat you," he said with no humor, placing the bouquet in my lap before sitting at the other end, leaving me in a daze wondering what he meant by "eat you." He claps loudly twice with a loud bang, a door opening, 2 men walk in pushing a trolley. Judging by smell I'm sure the covered things were delicacies. When they reached the middle they placed the food swiftly on the table. A bigger plate covered in the cloche is placed in the middle, circling it are smaller plates. They removed each cover exposing delicacies I swear I've never seen before, with a pleasing smell making my mouth water as I grip my thighs trying to control myself for digging in. Once done they leave while Dimitri open up the wine with a pop. The cork fly open, the top turns smoking. He tips his cup then pour some halfway standing. He does the same to my glass. "Today I'm here to serve you," he says smiling, "so what would you like to tasra first?" The food was delicious. I had eaten so much more than what I eat in a month. Dimitri had cleared the table, removing all the cutlery and plates, leaving only our glasses and wine. The guard comes out to take the dishes away. Dimitri stands by as the music starts playing. "Can I have this dance?" He reaches out his hand. "I don't know how to dance," I shake my head. "Neither do I." He jokes, making me smile. How bad could it be? I thought. Taking his hand he pulls me off the chair, he holds my waist and my hands on his shoulders. In a slow dance we just stare at each other occasionally, twirling me. "Have I told you how much I wanted to rip that dress of you?" His eyes rake up and down my body, his muscles tensed as he kisses me, first softly then with fiery passion. Once again my body is on fire. "These lips! God, you taste so divine," he says slowly, seductively, trailing kisses down my neck. "Dimitri!" I sigh out of breath. As if reading my mind he tugs of the shirt, ripping the button and losing the tie swiftly, the movement making me stare, forgetting he lifting me up without a struggle. I snake my legs around his waist as we kiss, our tongue finding their own rhythm, crashing ferociously. He places me on the table, reaching for the hem of the gown. He trails the gown off me. Stepping back a little he stares awestruck and I shyly cover myself with my arms. I've never been this exposed to anyone before. "No baby, don't deprive me the satisfaction of this gorgeous body." He peels my hands away gently. "I want to make you cry out my name over and over till we pass out because of the euphoria." His voice filled with desperation, holding the side of my face he grazes his fingers on my bottom lip. It'll hurt, won't it?" I ask shyly, hating the fact I'm inexperienced. "You've never been ex before?" Dimitri asks, chuckling, but his jaw drops as he sees me looking away. I am tense, confused. He doesn't like virgins. "This is not the proper way for your first day. You should be up in my bed, not on the table," he explained, running his hands through his hair. My mouth forms an O. I try to conceal how much the words affected me, cause my body was tingling and I wanted to come so bad. "Doesn't mean I can't make you scream my name over and over," he smirks wickedly. "Kieran," I cry out, my heart racing as I release in a seria of toe-curling climax. I feel lightheaded, panting, closing my eyes, still not believing what I felt. I looked towards Dimitri. He was bending down to pick something, my gown. "Here, it's getting late, you need to return back to the palace," he says grimly, placing the gown by the side of the table. "What? What just happened?" I felt offended, hurt, and most of all stupid. I'm stunned at his reaction. He doesn't even look at me as he in turn dresses quickly. I rise up, taking the gown from the side of the table he left it and trying to hold my bleeding heart. What did I expect? A guy like Dimitri in love with me? I laugh. How naive I was. Making the pain sting more. I struggle into the tiny gown, blinking back unwanted tears. "Can I get my old clothes back?" I asked quietly. I'll get maid to bring it for you. I'll be outside waiting. He exits the room just like that. Ma'am, I was so lost in thought, a million questions sizzling my mind, questioning my worth, my very existence, hating how he made me feel like I was the only girl who existed just a moment ago, now tossing me out of his house like garbage. Wiping at my eyes, my legs felt wobbly. I brace myself, remembering I was going back to my pathetic life. So brave of me to dream. Now I'm left with nothing but regret. I still leave the room with my head held high. The house was beautiful. Walking through the walls, the fine walls decorated with art sculptures and paintings. I don't see their beauty. In fact, I feel them mocking me. I was not good enough to be standing in the midst of such priceless art. We had reached the room. I begged her to stay outside as I try to pick myself up for breaking down, pacing a little as I do breathing exercises. Putting on my old gown, the black plain dress, feeling much better and comfortable, but that was only physically. Within, I was an emotional wreck. Feeling like a fool, he used me for my body and I let him, making me build castles on air while enjoying the best moments of my life. Dimitri was in the driver's seat. It was a different one from the first, a red Camry. It had a refreshing smell and looked new and spotless. He had also changed from his tux to a black and black warrior attire. The drive to the pack house was uncomfortable. It was late and a bit cold, but I was freezing, and I'm not sure if it's because of the atmosphere. Without saying a word, he parks the car in front the pack house, then leaves like I wasn't even in the car. I do the same, leaving the car. He was waiting for me. I huff. I could go into the house myself. He grabs my hand without my consent. When I try to pull out, he grasps, tightens. It was pointless fighting the urge to kick him. The guards I met earlier were still there on duty, looking more active than they had earlier. The guards were walking up to me, but looking at the cold glare from Dimitri, they stayed put, letting us through without a word. And then the funniest thing happened. Kieran, with his usual serious features, was holding a snarling Riley hand in hand, stopping the same time I and Dimitri did, both genders staring daggers at one another. Alpha Dimitri greets with a bow in respect, and so do I. Dimitri, glad to see you're up and about. Imposing on the about, he looks at our hands. I knew my warriors weren't weak. He boosts. Dimitri's grip on my arm tightens, hurting me, but I don't let it show, keeping an expressionless facade, ignoring Riley, acting like she wasn't in the room at all. I just wanted to be in my bed alone like I've always been and maybe will forever be. I've had enough roller coasters for the day. Of course, when we got an alpha like you, we have nothing to worry about. I knew it killed Dimitri to say, but we had to respect him regardless if we liked it or not. Really? He chuckled, sounding like a forced mocking laugh. I'll leave you to it. We still have a lot to accomplish. His tone serious. Yes, Alpha, I'll be right where you need me. He pulls Riley away, then we leave, walking a few steps. Dimitri lets go of my hands. Goodbye, Lila Crestwood. His eyes, once filled with love, was now an empty pool of nothingness. I walk the other way. Goodbye and good radiance, Dimitri, I say, soft, angry at myself. Chapter 15, Pain Bearable. Kieran Blackwood, keep your head up. You're slacking, Jay, my instructor yelled, annoyed, and it was a mutual feeling. I was sick of this. I was sparring in the arena with one of the guards. He wasn't a tough fighter. Even going easy on the shaking man, plus the light ache in my chest, kept distracting me, and I had to ignore Callias' blaring growls. Jay. Yip. Dropping my sword, falling to my knees, I clutch my shirt, the sharp sinuous pain hard to ignore now. My whole breath hyperventilating. The pain was torturous, hitting hardest and harder till it subsided a little, but still hurt like hell. What? I asked. Mate, Callias whispered, unable to speak well because of the pain. My eyes widened in terror, realizing it. Lila was with another man, not just any other man, Dimitri. I winch as another wave hits me, digging my fists into the ground, forcing my eyes closed. Jay, are you? I'm fine. I stop him from getting closer, my muscles tensing as Callias was taking form, and I let him, not having the strength to fight. My clothes tear apart as I turn into my black-blue vicious wolf, the whole room erupting in confusing murmurs. I had to leave this place. I could practically hear my father's voice blaring, "Do not look weak in front of your subjects, Kieran," like he always used to. Without hesitation, Callias ran out the exit into the woods. How could Lila do this? She was no hoe, not like others. She hasn't known the guy for 1 week, for crying out loud. Did she do this to defile me? Or did she really love Dmitri? The later part hurts, intensifying the pain. The worst part of it all was that it is all my fault, my own fault, to avoid an incomplete reading experience. My insides feels like they had been put inside a furnace, of venomous snakes and stinging bees with a burnt dagger piercing through it at once. The next wave that hits brings Callias on his knees, making him howl slowly in pain. The curse of the mate bond, the moon goddess should be glowing in her victory. She's won. This is what she wanted to see, me to suffer. I hope she's relishing every goddamn moment of it, cause it was never going to happen again. I was going to make sure of it. Tired of pacing out here and fearing a search party would soon be arranged, I nudge Callias and turn back to my human form. Pulling on clothes, I take a feeble walk back to the pack house. I head straight to Lila's room, ignoring the weird gazes that cross my ways as long as they were just looks and no side comments. I hear chuckling coming from her room. I'm frozen in place. Must I have been mistakenly? Was the ache for something else? Oh, I can't wait, I hear Shina's voice echo with delight. I'm certain anything I find behind these doors isn't going to be pretty. I push the door opening, seeing the messed up room and horrific faces of the two ladies, stunned they had been caught. Standing here looking at Riley, I regret ever her. What did I see in this? She was nothing compared to Lila. She was pale compared to Lila's beautiful features. Lila was a sweetheart, a warrior. Riley was the daughter of the devil, a scared, irritating hoe. Watching her and the stunt she just pulled only grows my disgust. She's pathetic. Lila Crestwood. I stepped into my room. Huh, that's funny, I mutter. It was dark. I never turn off the lights, patting the wall by my right till I find the light switch. With a click the room comes alive with a horrific mess staring back at me. I'm stunned by the mess in front of me. My things were scattered around the floor in shreds. I crouch down, picking up one of the torn fabric. The design I notice is from the new clothes I was given. Oh no! I hurried to my cupboard, opening it, the same as the floors and my bed, the piles of torn clothes. Everything had been ruined into confetti except my old worn-out ones, but that was not the reason for me panicking. I see the box, but it is empty. Dropping to my knees, I scatter the shredded clothes on the ground, and finally my tears drip as I see the necklace on the floor. No! I cry sadly with shaking hands, picking up the fragments of the green emerald now in pieces. It was the last gift my dad had given to me, the last thing of home I had left. I kept it in my tiny box, pushing it far back in the cupboard, my silent promise to find out the truth about the crown now that had been destroyed too. Why was I born with a bad omen? My ill fate winning again? It was no doubt Riley and Shine's doing. I hated them so goddamn much. I usually don't wish pain on a person, but I hope right about now they'll die and be wiped away from this world. As I sobbed uncontrollably, I felt just as shattered as the emerald. I had the worst luck. Why haven't the cold arms of death not claimed me each and every day? I begged, secretly wishing as I lay my head to rest I won't open them by the morrow, but it never happens, it never happens. Lila! This is all your fault! I screamed at him about the consequences. Don't you dare take a step closer, I warned sternly. At this point I don't have any ounce of respect left for this man, bluntly, with his mask of sympathy that wasn't fooling anyone. I was done with his tricks, his games, and most of all his sick girlfriend. Everything about him was toxic to me. Ruining my life over and over again because he can't keep his egoistic nature in check. He didn't listen, coming closer, picking me off the ground. Hitting him on his chest to let me go was just like hitting a wall. It had no effect. He didn't budge or flinch. Aiming for his jugular, I hit him with force, yakking at the impact. It was as strong as a bull's, but his grip loosened around me, giving the chance to escape as I stepped back. "Okay, I deserve that," he says, touching his jaw. No, that wasn't what he deserved. If there's any justice, he should be whipped over and over again till he passes out in pain. I stay mute, letting the stream flow from my eyes. "I'm just here to help. I laugh out loud. "Haven't you helped me enough?" I say, my voice hurts, not believing what he just spat. "Lila," he steps closer and I step backwards. He does again and I react the same. "If you really want to help me, you'll leave me alone," I say sternly. Speaking to deaf ears, he walks in closer, trying to step back. I realized I was pinned to the wall, having no other place to go. He pulls me in his warm embrace, having no strength in me to fight. I let this stupid man console me. "You need to leave this goddamn room." His chest rumbles as he speaks, and I don't care as he walks towards the exit with me in his arms. He leads me outside the room, my head buried in his chesty legs, doing his bidding. I'm lying on his chest, his arms around me. My brain isn't working. Helena is silent and the necklace in my grasp is cold, matching my numb heart. "Climb up." I look away, seeing a ladder heading up to the roof. He must be out if he believes I was going to climb to the roof and stay with him. I was about to decline, but held the decision for a while. I wanted to be another person, pretending my pathetic life didn't exist. Even if it was just for a while, the break would be nice. Gripping the necklace still in my arms, I climbed awkwardly up the metal ladder, having Kieran help behind as he pushed me gently. We get to the top, the sight breathtaking, the scene beautiful, the wind flowing, soothing the ache in my chest a little as I stand gazing quietly, Kieran hugging me from behind. Somehow his being here makes the pain bearable. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.